The vast emptiness of space stretched before the Galactic Council's survey vessel, Starlight Seeker. Its sleek, silver hull gleamed against the backdrop of stars as it approached the uncharted solar system at the edge of the Orion Arm. Captain Vex stood on the bridge, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the holographic display. "Final approach to target system," announced the navigation officer. "Initiating standard planetary survey protocols." The ship slowed as it entered the system, its advanced sensors sweeping across the planets. Most were uninhabitable gas giants or frozen rocks, but the third planet from the star caught their attention immediately. "Captain, you need to see this," called lead scientist Mora, her tentacles waving with excitement as she examined the readings. Planet designation XR27 shows. Well, frankly, it shows impossible readings. Captain Vex moved to her station, his gray skin darkening with concern. "Explain." "The planet has breathable oxygen, but also high levels of toxic gases. The temperature ranges from boiling hot to freezing cold depending on location. Gravity is 1.3 times Council standard. Constant electrical storms. Active volcanoes. Aggressive life forms. And yet," she paused, adjusting her scanner, "despite all this, it appears to support complex life." The science team gathered around their instruments, checking and rechecking the readings. No known spacefaring species had settled such a hostile world before. Most Council races evolved on temperate planets with stable climates and minimal natural threats. "We're detecting artificial structures on the surface," reported the sensor officer. "Primitive, but definitely constructed by intelligent beings." "Impossible," muttered Captain Vex. "No species could evolve intelligence in such conditions." Mora's eyes widened as more data came in. "Captain, I believe XR27 may be the most dangerous habitable planet ever documented. The combination of environmental hazards alone should make sustained settlement impossible." The bridge fell silent as images appeared on the main screen. Through gaps in the storm clouds, they could see sprawling structures. Buildings, roads, what appeared to be farms, somehow surviving in this hellscape. "Prepare first contact protocols," ordered Captain Vex. "Whatever species has adapted to this environment must be remarkably resilient. We should approach with caution." As the communications officer began broadcasting standard greeting messages in the 1,000 most common galactic languages, an alert sounded from the sensor station. "Captain, we're detecting radio signals from the surface. Artificial transmissions. Can we decode them?" The communications officer worked her console, her forehead ridges furrowing in concentration. "Yes, the universal translator is processing now. It's a language called English, not in our database of known galactic languages." "Put it through," ordered Captain Vex. A voice crackled through the speakers, clear and confident. "Unidentified vessel. This is New Horizon Colony on planet Crucible. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. We are tracking your approach." The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. Not only was this unknown species surviving on the deadliest planet they'd ever encountered, but they had detected the Starlight Seeker's approach despite its advanced stealth systems. "Respond," Captain Vex said, straightening his uniform. "Inform them we are a peaceful exploration vessel from the Galactic Council." As the message was sent, Mora studied the new data flowing across her screen. "Captain," she whispered, "preliminary biological scans suggest the inhabitants are warm-blooded mammals. Bipedal. No apparent natural defenses. Physically, they seem almost fragile." Captain Vex's outer eyes blinked in disbelief. "Then how are they surviving down there?" The answer came as a new transmission arrived, accompanied by a visual feed. The face that appeared on screen looked surprisingly ordinary. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth with flat teeth. The being smiled, revealing no fangs or other visible weapons. "Galactic Council, this is Commander Jack of New Horizon Colony. Welcome to Crucible. We call ourselves humans. Would you like to come down and visit? Captain Vex paced the bridge of the Starlight Seeker, his 4 eyes blinking nervously as the communication screen displayed the human called Commander Jack. The captain's skin had taken on a purplish hue, a sign of stress among his species. "You wish us to come to the surface?" Vex asked, unable to hide his disbelief. "Our scans indicate conditions that would require our most advanced environmental protection systems." The human on the screen smiled. "We understand your concern. We can provide landing coordinates for the safest zone near our colony. We've been living here for 3 decades now and have developed pretty good systems for handling crucibles." Quirks. Security Chief Larn stepped forward, his ridged forehead creased with concern. "Captain, I advise against this. We know nothing about these humans or how they might have adapted to such conditions. It could be a trap." Mora, the science officer, disagreed. "This is a unique opportunity to study how an unknown species has managed to survive in conditions we thought impossible for intelligent life. Think of what we could learn." On screen, Commander Jack waited patiently, his simple appearance. Just 2 eyes, no protective exoskeleton, soft-looking skin, seemed completely at odds with the deadly planet he called home. "We accept your invitation," Captain Vex finally decided. "Please transmit the landing coordinates. We will send a small delegation." After the transmission ended, preparations began immediately. The away team would consist of Captain Vex, lead scientist Mora, security chief Larn, and 2 guards. They donned the ship's most advanced environmental suits, designed to withstand extreme conditions. "Remember," Vex instructed his team as they boarded the shuttle, "we know nothing about these humans. They've survived conditions that killed 3 of our survey drones. Be respectful, but alert." The shuttle launched from the Starlight Seeker and descended toward the planet's surface. Through the viewports, they could see massive storm clouds crackling with lightning, vast oceans that sensor readings showed were highly acidic, and landscapes that ranged from burning deserts to frozen tundra. "How could anyone live here by choice?" muttered one of the guards. The shuttle broke through the cloud layer, and suddenly they could see it. New Horizon Colony, a sprawling settlement protected by partial domes and energy shields. Fields of crops grew in sectioned areas. Structures of various sizes formed neat patterns, and moving among them were small figures, humans going about their daily lives on the most hostile planet the Council had ever classified. Their shuttle landed on a designated pad where a small group of humans waited. Through their suit sensors, the aliens could detect the toxic components in the air, the radiation levels, and the dangerous microorganisms swarming around them. Yet the humans wore only simple breathing masks and light protective clothing. As the shuttle door opened, Captain Vex took a deep breath inside his sealed suit and stepped out onto the surface of Crucible. "Welcome to New Horizon," said Commander Jack, extending a hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. He was taller in person than he had appeared on screen, with graying hair and lines around his eyes that suggested age. "Sorry about the weather. This is actually one of our better days." Behind him stood a woman with dark skin and curly hair. "I'm Colony Director Emma." She introduced herself. "We're excited to meet representatives from beyond our solar system. You're our first alien visitors." "You mean?" Mora's translator struggled briefly. "Your species hasn't encountered other intelligent life before." "No," Emma replied with a smile. "We've been sending signals into space for over a century, but you're the first to answer." A deafening crack of thunder shook the landing pad. None of the aliens could help flinching, but the humans barely seemed to notice. "That's just the afternoon storm starting up," Commander Jack said casually. "We should head inside. Tom here will give you a tour of our little home once you're settled." He gestured toward a younger human who waved cheerfully. "I've prepared the visitor center with atmospheric settings that should be comfortable for you," Tom said. "We can adjust if needed." As they walked toward the main structure, Security Chief Larn whispered to Captain Vex, "Sir, how are they so?" "Calm. Our sensors indicate 3 separate environmental hazards that should be causing them extreme distress right now. Captain Vex watched as a small human child ran past, laughing, wearing even less protection than the adults. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I intend to find out." The alien delegation followed Tom through the airlock into New Horizons' main dome. Captain Vex and his team moved cautiously in their bulky environmental suits, while their human guide walked with a relaxed stride, wearing only light protective clothing and a simple breathing mask which he removed once they were inside. "You can check your readings," Tom said, gesturing around the large entry chamber. "The air in here is clean. We filter out all the nasty stuff from Crucible's atmosphere." Scientist Mora analyzed Versuit's sensors and blinked all three of her eyes in surprise. "He's correct, Captain. Oxygen levels are within our tolerable range, and toxins have been reduced to negligible levels. You may remove your helmets if you wish," Tom offered, "though I understand if you prefer to keep them on for your first visit." After a moment's hesitation, Captain Vex nodded, and the delegation carefully removed their helmets. Their nostrils flared and skin changed colors as they adjusted to their first direct exposure to the human environment. "This way to the colony center," Tom said, leading them down a wide corridor. New Horizons started with just 50 colonists 30 years ago. Now we're home to over 3,000 humans. The corridor opened into a vast central plaza. The aliens froze in astonishment. Above them, a transparent dome revealed Crucible's violent sky, where lightning flashed between dark clouds. Below, humans of all ages moved about their daily business. Some pushed carts loaded with supplies, others tended to small gardens growing along the pathways, and children played in what appeared to be a designated recreation area. "Those children," Security Chief Larn said, pointing with one clawed finger. "They are not wearing any protective gear at all." Tom smiled. "Kids born on Crucible develop stronger lungs and bones. They're already adapting to the planet. The next generation will be even stronger." The delegation moved through the plaza, drawing curious stares from the human colonists. Many waved or nodded in greeting. A small girl approached and offered Mora a strange red object. "It's an apple," Tom explained as Mora hesitantly accepted the gift. "From our hydroponic gardens. We've modified Earth crops to grow in Crucible's conditions." "Earth?" Captain Vex asked. "Our home planet," Tom replied. "Much nicer than this place, but getting pretty crowded. That's why we started the colony program." He led them toward a large building at the far side of the plaza. "This is our factory. We process some of Crucible's toxic minerals into useful materials. Come see." Inside the factory, humans worked at various stations wearing protective gear that looked primitive to the aliens' eyes. Workers were extracting glowing blue crystals from rock samples and feeding them into machinery. "These crystals are found nowhere else," Tom explained. "They absorb radiation and can be used to power our systems. Nasty to handle without protection, but worth the risk. Your species willingly exposes itself to such dangers?" asked Captain Vex. Tom shrugged. "Risk and reward, Captain. Humanity's oldest equation." As they continued the tour, they passed what appeared to be an educational facility, where young humans studied diagrams of Crucible's dangerous wildlife and practiced emergency procedures. "We teach survival skills from an early age," Tom said. "Everyone in New Horizon knows how to handle at least 3 types of environmental emergency." The delegation arrived at an observation deck overlooking vast fields protected by energy shields. Humans in farming gear tended to rows of crops despite the howling winds visible just beyond the protective barrier. "Those shields look inadequate," noted Security Chief Larn. "They fail sometimes," Tom admitted casually. "When that happens, everyone pitches in to fix them. We've gotten pretty good at quick repairs." Suddenly, a tremor shook the building. Small pieces of ceiling material fell around them. The aliens crouched in alarm, but Tom merely glanced upward with mild interest. "Just a small quake," he said. "We get them daily. The really big ones only come about once a month." Captain Vex straightened his posture. Your people live with constant earthquakes, toxic air, radiation, dangerous predators, and electrical storms that would disable most spacecraft. And you call this a colony? Tom grinned. We call it home, Captain. And speaking of storms, he pointed through the observation window where dark clouds were gathering ominously on the horizon. You might want to prepare yourselves. That doesn't look like our usual afternoon shower. Seems like Crucible wants to give you a proper welcome. The sky outside New Horizons' dome turned an angry purple-black as the storm approached. Lightning flashed in rapid succession, illuminating the landscape with brief, blinding bursts of light. The wind howled with increasing fury, carrying debris that clattered against the colony's outer shields. Colony alert. Status yellow. All external workers return to shelter. Shield reinforcement teams on standby. The announcement echoed through the corridors as Tom led the alien delegation to the colony's command center. Is this normal? Captain Vex asked, his skin shifting to a pale blue with concern. This is bigger than our usual storms, Tom admitted, picking up his pace. But nothing we haven't handled before. They entered a large circular room where humans sat at various stations monitoring the colony systems. Commander Jack and Director Emma were reviewing a holographic map showing the storm's path. Visitors, Jack nodded to them, his face serious. Looks like you'll be staying longer than planned. I've ordered your shuttle secured in our hangar bay. This storm's going to make departure impossible for at least 12 hours. Security Chief Larn stepped forward. Our shuttle can withstand extreme conditions. We should return to our ship immediately. Emma shook her head. Not through this. Your sensors probably haven't picked it up yet, but we're detecting electromagnetic anomalies that would fry your navigation systems. Trust me, you're safer here. As if to emphasize her point, a tremendous boom shook the entire colony. The lights flickered momentarily. Status report, Jack called out. A young man at a monitoring station responded. Direct lightning strike on Shield Section 7. Power fluctuations throughout the grid, holding at 92% capacity. Within parameters, Emma nodded. Keep an eye on. Another boom interrupted her, this one powerful enough to knock several people off their feet. Warning lights flashed red across the command center. Shield Section 7 failing, shouted the monitor. Power levels dropping rapidly. Jack grabbed a communication device. Repair Team Alpha to Section 7. Now, everyone else, Emergency Protocol 3. The command center erupted into activity. Humans moved with practiced efficiency, some rushing to their stations while others grabbed equipment from wall compartments. What can we do to help? Captain Vex asked, surprising even himself with the offer. Jack seemed equally surprised but recovered quickly. Your environmental suits might actually be useful out there. Follow me. The commander led Captain Vex and Security Chief Larn to a storage area where humans were donning protective gear that looked woefully inadequate compared to the aliens' advanced suits. We need to reach the shield generator and stabilize it before the entire section fails, Jack explained, strapping on a breathing mask. If that happens, we'll lose a third of our crop fields and possibly the eastern residential sector. Outside, the storm's fury had intensified. Wind-driven acid rain pelted the failing shield, which flickered visibly where the damage was worst. A team of humans was already working at the base of a large generator, their forms barely visible through the storm. Stay close, Jack shouted over the howling wind as they left the relative safety of the hallway and ventured outside. The aliens struggled to keep their footing as gusts of wind threatened to topple them. Captain Vex watched in amazement as the humans moved forward with determined efficiency, bracing against the wind but never stopping. At the generator, a woman in rain-soaked gear called out, "Power coupling's fried. We need to bypass it." "Use the emergency cables," Jack shouted back. "Already tried. They're melting in this heat." Without hesitation, Jack turned to the aliens. "Your suit materials, are they heat-resistant?" "Yes, but," Captain Vex began. "Perfect. We need insulation around those cables." Understanding dawned on Larn. "Captain, they want us to sacrifice parts of our suits." Before Vex could respond, a section of the shield above them failed completely. A torrent of acid rain poured through, heading straight for an unprotected human worker. Without thinking, Captain Vex lunged forward, positioning his protected body between the human and the dangerous downpour. Pain shot through him as some of the acid found a seam in his suit. He groaned but held his position. "Captain." Larn moved to help him. "The cables," Vex gasped. "Help them with the cables." Larn hesitated only briefly before removing his suit's outer layer and handing it to the humans. They quickly wrapped the valuable material around the power couplings. "Rerouting power now," someone shouted. With a humming surge, the shield generator stabilized. The section of shield above them solidified again, stopping the acid rain. Jack helped Captain Vex to his feet. "Thank you," he said, his eyes conveying sincere gratitude. "You just saved one of my people." As they made their way back to safety, Vex noticed humans already moving to assess and repair the damage, many sporting minor injuries, but continuing to work despite them. None complained. Some even laughed together as they tackled particularly difficult repairs. "How can they be so resilient?" Larn whispered to his captain. Vex watched a young human no taller than his waist carrying tools to workers twice her size. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'm beginning to think we may have found something more interesting than just a dangerous planet." Scientist Mora sat in New Horizons' medical bay as a human doctor treated Captain Vex's acid burns. The captain winced as healing gel was applied to his exposed skin. "You're lucky," the doctor said, working with practiced hands. "A few more seconds of exposure, and the damage would have reached your secondary dermis layer. On most planets in the galaxy, acid rain isn't strong enough to burn through protective suits," Vex noted, watching the doctor work. The doctor smiled. "Crucible isn't like most planets. That's why we're here." Mora had been mostly silent since the storm incident, her data pad constantly in hand, recording observations. Now she looked up with all three eyes focused intently. "That is precisely what I don't understand," she said. "Why are you here? Why choose the most dangerous planet we've ever encountered when your species could have selected somewhere more hospitable?" The doctor finished treating Captain Vex and turned to Mora. "You should talk to Bill in the hydroponics lab. He can explain better than I can." Later, Mora found Bill tending to plants growing in a strange purple soil. He was an older human with skin wrinkled from sun exposure and hands that looked strong from years of physical work. The doctor said you could explain why humans chose this planet, Mora said. Bill chuckled. Simple answer. Because it was hard. He gestured for her to follow him through rows of strange-looking crops. Earth plants wouldn't grow here naturally. Too much radiation, wrong soil composition, gravity issues. So we changed them. He picked up a blue fruit and handed it to her. This used to be an orange on Earth. Now it's adapted to Crucible. You modified your food sources. We modify everything, Bill said. Our plants, our tools, our shelters, ourselves. Humans are adaptation machines. Throughout the day, Mora interviewed more colonists, each revealing another piece of the puzzle. She met Pat in engineering, who showed her how they repurpose toxic minerals into building materials. The same chemicals that would kill us can be transformed into what saves us. Pat explained, holding up a crystal that glowed with internal light. It's all about seeing possibilities instead of problems. In the education center, Teacher Kim explained how colony children learned both Earth history and Crucible survival skills. We teach them that every challenge has a solution, Kim said as young students practiced putting on emergency breathing masks. Not that every solution will be perfect, but that giving up is never an option. Mora watched a small group of children working together to solve a complex environmental simulation. They seemed so happy, she observed, despite the dangers. Kim smiled proudly. Happiness isn't about being safe, it's about overcoming challenges together. In the community hall, Mora met several families sharing a meal. They invited her to join them, accommodating her different dietary needs without hesitation. "What I still don't understand," Mora said as she carefully tasted a modified vegetable, "is why you don't seem afraid. This planet could kill you at any moment." An elderly woman named Rose laughed gently. "Earth could kill us at any moment too. Earthquakes, hurricanes, diseases, other humans. Life is dangerous everywhere. But this planet is exceptionally hazardous," Mora insisted. "True," Rose nodded. "But here's the secret. Humans don't thrive despite danger. We thrive because of it." Later, Mora found Commander Jack in the observatory, looking out at Crucible's strange double moonrise. "I've interviewed 17 of your colonists today," she told him. "Each one gave me part of the answer, but I'm still missing something fundamental about human psychology." Jack considered her words. "What's the most dangerous planet you've encountered before this one?" "Planet Krell 9, Mora answered promptly. "Toxic atmosphere, unpredictable weather patterns, aggressive native species. Our survey team lasted 3 days before evacuation. And what happened after the evacuation? We classified it as uninhabitable and placed warning beacons in orbit." Jack nodded. "Humans would have seen those beacons as an invitation to explore. We're drawn to what challenges us. But why?" Mora's frustration was evident in her voice. "Because that's how we grow," Jack said simply. "Every impossibility we overcome makes us stronger, smarter, more adaptable." He gestured toward the settlement visible below. 30 years ago, surviving here was considered impossible. Now children are born here every day. Mora recorded his words, finally understanding. It wasn't superior technology or physical adaptations that allowed humans to survive Crucible. It was something more fundamental, a psychological trait deeply embedded in their species. "Your greatest survival trait isn't physical at all," she realized. "It's your refusal to accept limitations." Jack smiled. "That's part of it. The other part is sitting down to dinner together after a hard day, telling jokes during repairs, and carrying each other when we fall. We survive because we do it together." As Mora walked back to her quarters, she watched humans going about their evening routines, laughing, working, living, on a planet that should have killed them all. For the first time, she felt something beyond scientific curiosity. She felt respect. The Starlight Seeker hung in orbit above Crucible, its communication systems active as Captain Vex reported their findings to the Galactic Council. The captain stood before the holographic projection of High Counselor Dren, whose elongated face showed deep concern. "Let me understand this correctly," Dren said, his voice echoing through the ship's command center. "These humans not only survive on XR-27, but they appear to be thriving." "Yes, Counselor," Captain Vex confirmed. "They've established a self-sustaining colony with growing population. They've adapted Earth plants to grow in Crucible soil. They've even begun mining operations to extract valuable minerals. And their technology level? Mixed. In some areas, particularly environmental engineering, they're quite advanced. In others, surprisingly primitive. They rely more on adaptability than technological superiority." Security Chief Larn stepped forward. "Counselor, I believe we must consider the strategic implications. Any species that can colonize XR-27 could potentially settle planets previously considered uninhabitable. This would give humans access to resources no other Council species can reach." The hologram flickered as Dren leaned forward. "Are you suggesting they pose a threat, Chief Larn?" "I am suggesting they have capabilities we don't fully understand yet." Scientist Mora, who had been quietly analyzing data, looked up from her console. "With respect, I disagree. The humans have shown no aggression toward us. They saved Captain Vex during the storm despite risk to themselves. One act of assistance doesn't guarantee peaceful intentions," Larn countered. "We know nothing about their history or their tendencies as a species." The debate continued in the command center, echoing similar discussions happening throughout the ship. Crew members who had visited the colony argued with those who remained suspicious. Some saw potential allies with unique survival skills. Others feared expansionists who could claim worlds no other species wanted. Meanwhile, in New Horizons' diplomatic chamber, Commander Jack and Director Emma were having their own discussion with the alien delegation's communication officer. "We understand the Council needs time to process our existence," Emma said, her tone diplomatic but firm. "But we hope this can be the beginning of beneficial relations between humans and the galactic community. The Council will want to know more about your intentions," the communication officer replied. "Your expansion plans, your resource needs, your military capabilities." Jack leaned forward. "We're colonists, not conquerors. Earth is our home. Crucible is our new frontier. We're here because we need room to grow, not because we want to threaten anyone. Yet you choose to settle the most dangerous planets." "We choose challenges that make us stronger," Emma corrected. "And we're interested in learning how other species have solved problems we haven't encountered yet." Back on the Starlight Seeker, Captain Vex received a private communication from Council headquarters. The message was encoded at the highest security level, meant for his eyes only. "Captain," the message began, "your preliminary reports about this human species have caused significant concern among the Strategic Planning Division. You are hereby ordered to assess whether humans pose a potential threat to galactic security, determine their weaknesses, their limitations, and whether containment protocols would be effective should they prove hostile. This assessment is now your primary mission." Vex stared at the message, his skin darkening with concern. The humans had saved his life. They had shared their food, their knowledge, their homes. They had shown nothing but openness and friendship. Now he was being asked to evaluate them as potential enemies. Before he could formulate a response, the ship's alert system activated. A message from New Horizon flashed across his screen. "Emergency situation developing at colony. Eastern sector under threat. Request immediate assistance if possible." "What's happening?" Vex demanded. The sensor officer's voice was tense. "Multiple life forms approaching the colony from the eastern ridge. They appear to be native predators, larger than any we've detected before. The colony's defenses are activating, but..." On the main screen, they could see it now. A wave of massive six-legged creatures with armored hides charging toward New Horizons' eastern perimeter. Colony defenders were taking positions, but they were clearly outnumbered. Captain Vex looked from the emergency message to the Council's secret orders and back again. Then he straightened his uniform and made his decision. "Prepare armed shuttles for immediate launch," he commanded. "Alert medical to ready all facilities. We're going to assist the colony." Security Chief Larn stepped closer, speaking quietly. "Captain, the Council's orders didn't authorize intervention." "No," Vex agreed, his eyes fixed on the images of humans preparing to defend their home. "But they did order me to assess these humans, and I can think of no better way to understand a species than to fight alongside them." The eastern perimeter of New Horizon erupted in chaos as the massive creatures, called Razorbacks by the colonists, smashed against the outer barriers. Their 6 powerful legs propelled armored bodies forward, while razor-sharp claws tore at the colony's defenses. Colonists manned defensive positions, firing specialized weapons that seemed designed specifically to target weak points in the creature's natural armor. Captain Vex's shuttle landed near the conflict zone, where Commander Jack was coordinating the defense. The captain was surprised to see children helping with the effort, carrying supplies and tending to the injured with practiced efficiency. "Didn't expect to see you in the fight," Jack said as Vex approached, a hint of approval in his voice. "We can provide air support and medical assistance," Vex offered, gesturing to the armed shuttles hovering above. "We need it. This is the largest pack we've ever seen. They shouldn't be hunting together like this." A thunderous crash drew their attention as a particularly massive razorback broke through the outer barrier. Colony defenders fell back to secondary positions, moving with the coordinated precision of those who had drilled for exactly this scenario. "We need to seal that breach before more get through," Jack shouted into his communicator. Captain Vex watched as humans responded to the crisis. They didn't flee from danger. They ran toward it. They didn't waste time with blame or panic. They focused on solutions. Most surprisingly, they seemed to improvise constantly, changing tactics as the situation evolved. Nearby, scientist Mora was helping in the medical center, her specialized knowledge proving useful as the medical team treated injuries unlike anything in their training. The venom acts as an anticoagulant, she explained to the human doctors. You need to neutralize it before closing the wounds. Security Chief Larn, initially hesitant to engage, found himself fighting alongside a human defense team. The Razorbacks had broken through in a second location, and the defenders were struggling to hold the line. Target the joint between the neck plates, a human fighter called to him. That's their weak point. Larn adjusted his weapon and fired, dropping a charging creature instantly. The humans nodded in approval and acceptance, not questioning his presence, simply grateful for the help. As the battle continued, Captain Vex noticed something remarkable. The humans fought with determination, but without the bloodlust he had feared. They killed the Razorbacks when necessary but focused primarily on driving them back, on protecting their home rather than exterminating a threat. Hours later, as the last creatures retreated into the wilderness, the combined forces of New Horizon and the Starlight Seeker gathered in the colony's central plaza. Humans and aliens worked side by side, treating wounds, repairing damage, and strengthening defenses. Commander Jack approached Captain Vex with a weary but grateful expression. Your help turned the tide. We would have lost the eastern sector without you. Vex nodded, his decision made. The Galactic Council will receive my full report tomorrow. I believe it's time we formalize relations between our peoples. The next day, in a ceremony hastily arranged in New Horizons' main hall, Captain Vex stood before the assembled colonists and his own crew. Behind him, a communication link displayed the faces of the Galactic Council members, watching with intense interest. As authorized representative of the Galactic Council, Vex began formally. I extend an official invitation to humanity to send representatives to the Council homeworld. Today marks the beginning of humanity's entrance to the galactic community. Applause filled the hall as Commander Jack and Director Emma stepped forward to accept the invitation. And what of Crucible? High Counselor Dren asked through the communication link. Do you maintain your classification of XR-27 as the most dangerous habitable planet in the galaxy? Captain Vex looked around at the humans who had made this impossible world their home, who had faced its dangers with innovation and courage, who had welcomed strangers from the stars and fought alongside them without hesitation. XR-27 remains the most dangerous planet we have encountered, he confirmed. But what we truly discovered here was not just a dangerous planet, but perhaps the most remarkable species in the galaxy. Not because humans are aggressive or threatening, but because there appears to be nowhere they cannot adapt and thrive. He looked directly at the council members. We thought we found the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. What we really found was a species that turns danger into opportunity, impossibility into challenge, and strangers into allies. In my professional assessment, we would be wise to welcome them as friends, because I would not want to face them as enemies. As the ceremony concluded, preparations began for the human delegation's journey to the Council homeworld. Captain Vex watched as Jack and Emma said goodbye to their families, promising to represent humanity well among the stars. Do you think the Council will accept us? Emma asked him privately. They will be cautious at first, Vex admitted, but they will learn what I have learned, that the true measure of an advanced species is not the comfort of the worlds they inhabit, but the strength of character they display when facing adversity. As the Starlight Seeker departed Crucible with the human representatives aboard, Captain Vex took one last look at the harsh, beautiful planet below. Once considered uninhabitable, now home to thousands of the most surprising beings he had ever encountered. The galaxy would never be the same again.